Hello all and welcome to Wow Crochet Designs. My name is Mary and in today's tutorial we are making this gorgeous little square using the Tunisian Knit Stitch. Get excited guys. The colour combination of today's tutorial was chosen by the lovely Fluffykitten on one of our lives. We have a live at 10 a.m. Saturday mornings Melbourne Australia time, and we also have a live on 4 p.m. Wednesday afternoons Melbourne Australia time. Marry that up with your country. But on Saturday mornings at 10 a.m, that live, one lucky subscriber gets to choose the colour combination of our next tutorial. And today's colour was chosen by Fluffykitten. Get excited guys, get excited. Now get excited because we're actually creating a placemat using 4 squares. So 1, 2, 3 and 4. This particular square was the simple stitch. This one is the knit stitch. My suggestion for you, if you have not done this one here, my suggestion would be to go and practice this first before doing this one here. All right, it's just that this one is so much easier and you get the flow of your hands better. I found with this one here I was loosening up the stitches along here, and actually it's not too bad now, but keeping these a little too tight. So make sure your stitch is even, your tension is even, if you will. All right, so once again, very special thank you to Fluffykitten. What you will need today is 8-ply, DK weight or a 3-weight cotton. If you want to use an Aran weight or a 4-weight or a 10-ply, whatever you use, stay consistent throughout the piece. Use the same weight for this square as used for this square, that square and that square. All right, so just whatever you want to use, just stay consistent with the weight. Not too worried about it being an 8-ply. You could use an Aran weight or a 10-ply or a 4-weight if you like, but for this tutorial I've used the 3-weight or the 8-ply or the DK weight, if you will. And I've also used, and I'll show you my hook, this one here, it is a 4mm hook, and make sure it's some sort of round hook or a Tunisian hook if you have any in stock. Don't get any hooks with the handle on it like that because your stitches will not fit on there. It must be kind of like a round or some sort of metal hook or plastic, if you will, whatever you have in stock that looks round. All right, you will need your scissors. You don't need to sew in your ends. We're going to do that when we crochet our border round around our pieces. All right, so that's pretty much all you need to know guys. I'm not going to hold you up anymore. I'm going to let you head off on your own creating the gorgeous knit stitch in Tunisian with the colour combination chosen by the lovely Fluffykitten. Good luck all. Alrighty guys, to make the knit stitch you need to have a basic foundation row, but what we're going to do first is to make a slip knot. Grab the tail end of your yarn, wrap it around your finger once and twice, holding it there and holding it down there. Give yourself a nice long tail for weaving in later. Grab your back loop, pass it halfway over your finger, hold it there, grab the other loop, pass it all the way over, pop your hook in and just give your work a tug. We're going to make 20 chains, okay? Make sure you don't do these chains too tight. And a chain is yarn over your hook, pull a loop through to the loop on your hook once, yeah? 2, 3, 4 and 5. All right, so you need to make 20. We've done 5 and off we go. 6, 7, don't make them too tight, yeah? 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19 and 20. Now in our previous tutorial I mentioned to do 21 for the foundation row, but you only need 20, and one of our subscribers has mentioned that she tried doing it and it wouldn't work out. Not her fault, that was my fault. I've since corrected that first part. I've left a little disclaimer inside the description box or the more section of that video. So make sure you only have 20 chains. All right, so in the meantime what we're going to do with Tunisian, to stop it from curling up too much, it will curl, yeah, but to stop it from curling up too much we tend to work more in the back bumps of our work rather than these loops you see right here. All right, ignoring the stitch on your hook, you're just going to move your work over and find the very next back bump. All right, let's get a nice close up for you to see where I'm putting my hook. yeah? So you turn your work and there's your first back bump. Well, that's actually classified as your second because the first is near your stitch, yeah? Pop your hook in there, pull a loop through and pull it up like so, keeping your loops sort of the same height all the way through your row, okay? So hold it there and give it a nice height, not too high, not too low, and just go to your very next back bump. Pop your hook in, pull a loop through, keeping them the same height. See how I'm adjusting the height to suit the rest? Hold it there. And again, this is the hardest row of your work, trust me. This is the hardest row. After this, the rest is not easy, but it's not as difficult. But there you go. And off you go. Keep doing this all the way through your work, making sure you're going into the back bumps like so, all the way across. All right. So what I'm going to do is pop this on fast for you. And you can slow your video down if you like, and off we go. Alrighty guys, I just did my second last stitch there. Now this took forever for me because my stitches in the middle here were a little too tight. So that's why I said to try and keep your stitches nice and loose. I've got one last stitch. Let's get a nice close up. This is what it should look like, yeah? So I've got one last stitch right there and you can actually see that last back bump there and pull up your loop. Alright, so to check that you have the right amount of stitches, you should have 20 loops across, all right? So 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, and 20, all right? Make sure you count your stitches. You can count by ones. I just count by two. It's easier for me, all right? So that's the first part of your foundation row. It's not your foundation row complete. Your foundation row complete is when you get back to here, all right? So what you want to do here is yarn over your hook and pull it through that first loop, yeah? Now for the rest, you're going yarn over your hook, pull through 2. Yarn over, pull through 2. Yarn over, pull through 2. Now if you saw our first tutorial on the simple stitch, you would have already known how to do this foundation row. All right, so I'm just going to pick up speed that little bit and get to the end of the row. It's pull through 2 all the way over and off you go. All right, so there you go. Gorgeous. And what you would have is like the little spaces here, but we're going to fill up those spaces now doing our knit stitch. All right, so our knit stitches, we avoid that very first stitch that we're in. That's counted as one stitch. And we're going to work in between this stitch here for the knit stitch. And what I mean by in between is you'll have your 2 bars on that stitch, yeah? You want to pop your hook in between the 2 bars, not in the space, not after the space, not one loop, but just right in between the 2 bars. And let's get a nice close up so you can see. So move that stitch out the way. Now you can see the stitch better. You're popping your hook in between those 2 bars of the stitch. Pop your hook in, pull a loop through and raise it up to that height. You're now going to go right into that next one and it's between the 2 loops and you can see it. If you can't see it, give it a tug and separate the loops and then pop your hook in between. Pull up a loop, yeah? In between the next one, pull up a loop. In between the next one, pull up a loop. Make those loops the same all the way up. All right, so I'm going to keep this one on normal pace for you so you can see how this works. See, already I'm starting to tighten up. Make sure you keep your stitches the same height. all the way across your piece. And don't make this too tight because this is a very dense stitch. This will curl. Definitely it will curl. All right. There. There. Into the next stitch. Now these are a little tight for me because I had the chains a little tight. So hopefully yours aren't so tight. In between the two stitches. In between the two, they're not stitches, 2 bars. In between the 2 bars. And you've got another stitch before the end of your row. Okay. So in between like so. And then you are going to do what we did in our first tutorial, our simple stitch, is pop your hook in that first tall loop and in the small loop at the back. Mama loop, baby loop, that's what I call it. All right. There's not too much difference with it, yeah. Pull that loop through like so. Once again, you need to count your loops across. All right, make sure you have 20. So 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, and 20. All right, make sure you count those loops, yeah. If you don't have 20, just see where you went wrong, okay? So from here, you're going to do what we call return pass, okay? What you did was a forward pass, and now we're going to do a return pass, all right? So yarn over your hook, pull through the first loop again. That's like chaining one at the beginning of the row, except it's kind of on the other side of our crochet work, yeah? And then yarn over and pull through 2, yarn over, 2, yarn over, 2, and so on, all the way across. I'm going to pop this on fast and off we go. Two. All right, so there you go, all the way across, gorgeous. Being careful to keep that side nice and loose or it will bow. Yeah, it's going to bow a little bit, but it will bow a lot if you don't keep your tension nice and loose, yeah? All right, that's easy. That's pretty much it, guys. You are doing and I'll show you again. You're going to ignore this first stitch and you are doing the knit stitch in between the 2 loops of your very next stitch, which is right there. And you're pulling up your loop nice and tall. Go into the next one, in between those 2 loops there. Pull up the loop nice and tall, and so on. Being careful not to confuse that loop with the next 2 loops, which is what I did when I first learnt this stitch, and I was popping my hook in there and then there. So I was adding an extra stitch. Just be careful. Make sure it is in between the 2 loops of that stitch, or 2 bars, not loops. Yeah, keeping it nice and tall, and so on, all the way across your piece. You may have noticed I stopped and went back because I didn't get it through the 2 bars of that stitch. Make sure you're getting it through the 2 bars. Now I still have 1 stitch left. In I go like so. Keeping it nice and tall. I've tightened up a little here, not good. Keep it nice and tall. Turn your work to the side, find your large loop there and the smaller loop right next to it and pull that loop through. And you're going to chain 1. Oh, don't forget to count your stitches here. Always 20 stitches across. All right, now chain 2. Loop through 2 and loop through 2 all the way across. We're going to do that, pop it on fast, and then we'll talk about what we're going to do next, and off we go. And the last 2, and I've left that last stitch really loose, so hopefully it's not too noticed. All right, I'm going to pull that loop up for a minute, and I want to show you how dense that stitch is looking at the back. But you can already start to see the little knit stitch across. Isn't it simply divine? It's like looking at knitting really. It's a little bit more solid than knitting because it's made with the hook. Otherwise, it's very much like knitting. And you can also already see that it's starting to bow here a little bit. It's going straight up there and then it's going down because my stitches are getting too tight. Don't leave your stitches too tight on the end or your work will bow a little bit. All right, so guess what your job is to do? Simple, simple, simple. Your job is to repeat the forward pass and the return pass for the next, we'll call that one row, forward pass and return pass, yeah, for the next 12 more rows. All right, so forward pass, return pass, 1 row. Forward pass, return pass, 2 rows, and so on. When I was doing this one here, someone said to me, I got a little confused about the rows. So that's pretty much the same in all of your Tunisian. You've got your forward pass and return pass as 1 row. All right, so head off on your own, do 12 more rows, or if you want to count it the other way, 24 more actual ways, if that helps. Meet me back here once you're done, and then we will talk about what we're going to do next. Alrighty guys, here we are at the end of our rows. Now it does tend to bow a little bit on that side and it turns up a little bit. Don't stress too much about that. We are going to wash and block this piece before we attach it to the other sides. Alright, so don't stress, yeah? In the meantime, you're going to finish off your row or cast off or bind off, whatever you'd like to call it. I think it's usually called bind off, but it doesn't matter either way because all we're doing is closing our piece. So we're going to go across the row or this section of the row, the first side of the row, like normal, going in between the 2 loops of your next stitch. But we're going to slip stitch each stitch across as we go. So as usual, avoiding that first stitch there, you're going to pop your hook in between the 2 loops of your next stitch like normal, pull your loop through like normal, and then just pull it through to the loop on your hook. All right, don't do these stitches too tight and don't leave them too loose either. All right, so let's get a close up so you can see it. That's the stitch we just went into. Okay, don't go into it again like I nearly did. Go into the very next stitch, pop your loop through like so and pull it through to the loop on your hook and off you go. Remember, you are already in that stitch. You're jumping into the very next stitch between the 2 bars, pull a loop through and pull it through to the loop on your hook. That is pretty much it all the way across your piece. Super easy. Remember, don't do these stitches too tight, which I've just done, and don't do them too loose either, or they're going to turn up like that just did as well. All right, so just doing that all the way across. Alrighty, how'd you go guys? I'm almost there. I have my last stitch right there. Actually, the second last stitch, if you will. Pull that through. And then we're going through that same taller loop in front and smaller loop in the back. Pull it through like so. Pull it through to the loop on your hook. Pull up a loop. Grab your scissors. Make sure you've got a long tail, just for weaving in purposes. No other reason, yeah? So long tail, pull the loop through, and you are officially, hello, let's bring that out, done. All right, so there you go. It does turn up slightly a little bit on both the edges there, but look at the knit stitch. Is it not divine? Now it does look a little smaller than your other piece, but we're going to wash and block that. Each stitch should be the same size. So you should have 14 down there and 14 down there. How you count them is these little loops right here. All right, the little V looking things. Okay, so that is now done. You have done the simple stitch and now you've done the knit stitch, and on Friday you will do another stitch yet again. All right, but in the meantime, thank you very much for joining us in creating the beautiful knit stitch. A very special thank you to the lovely Fluffykitten once again for her colour combination in today's tutorial. And again, if you want to be a part of Live Antics and choose the colour combination of our next tutorial, join us at 10 a.m. Saturday mornings, Melbourne, Australia time. Marry that up with your country and you too can choose the colour combination of the very next tutorial. Thank you very much for watching. My name is Mary and this is Wow Crochet Designs. Ciao for now.